Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. And as we gear up for Stage 4, Week 2 of the CDL, lots of discussion regarding OpTic Chicago right now. How from sometimes they look super good indeed, and then sometimes they completely fall apart as we saw against Atlanta FaZe. Is Formal potentially the key piece to the puzzle? Lots of discussion these last several days about how good he is in some aspects, but how poor he is maybe in other aspects of his games, and this is affecting OpTic Chicago at the present time. And try to take your thoughts in the comment section below. Like if you guys enjoy the video, subscribe if you are new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that. First of all, thought I'd mention this. Don't mention it too often. Some of you guys may be looking for more TacticalRab content from time to time. And over at the Breaking Point GG YouTube channel, we do a podcast every single week. Myself, Lionman was back this week. Wonderful stuff. And easyMac breaking down all the stuff that's happened over the past week. So if you guys would like to check that out, all the audio platforms as well, it is will be linked down below. Week in, week out, pretty much every single Tuesday, at the very worst Wednesday, it'll be uploaded on that channel. There's also some other great things on that channel as well, like match highlights that the guys work really hard on. So yeah, awesome to see. Let's keep diving on in. This comes out as well yesterday from the flank. Interesting to see, because not too long ago we were talking about this Easter team. I mean, John, Jerd, Gravity, and Simp, of course, and now they are 0-5 to start the Elite Four season. And well, as the flank say right here, I imagine it's goes behind the scenes. You got to think, with big name squads not having qualified, the Academy, for example, Triumph, bound to see some major roster mania once this Elite concludes. Always kind of funny, right? In the challenges at North American scene especially, the roster mania chaos is everywhere. In Europe, they tend to be relatively more consistent with their teams over time and give themselves time to actually form some chemistry with their squads. In the in the North American region, generally things break apart very quickly indeed. And well, are we surprised this Easter squad with some of the personalities on that team has fallen apart? Maybe not, especially with what we were talking about just a couple of days ago. But again, here we go. Easter 0-5. They may well be switching things up quite significantly. And let's get into this discussion regarding OpTic Chicago right now. So as round 11 stats say, this is a very interesting piece of statistics, to be honest, regarding how well OpTic do against the best teams and not the best teams. We discussed this the other day, but OpTic are 1-10 in Search and Destroy against the 3 teams that finished above them at the last major. That, of course, being the 3 best teams in the game. Most people would say right now, of course, Toronto Ultra, New York Subliners, and then the Atlanta FaZe. This is OpTic's Search and Destroy KD versus each CDL team. So against Surge, they're 3-0 with an average 1.54 KD. Ravens are 1.43, Empire are 1.32, Thieves are 1.27. Most of these teams above a 1, and most of these teams they have a positive record against. Rokkr, they're 2-2 against. Every other team right here, Legion, they're actually 1-1 against, as they are with Thieves. Every other team they have a positive record against. At the bottom though, these are the 3 teams they have a negative record against in the entire season. Ultra with a 0.89, pretty incredible. They have a 0.89 only against Ultra, which seems to be relatively close to a 1. Obviously you're not a 1, so you're probably going to be losing more than you're winning, but they're 0-4 in terms of record, right? So losing a lot of close games. We saw it certainly at the major, right, when they lost their game 5 at round 11. Doesn't help, of course, to a statistic like this. Subliners, though, they have a 0.85, they're 1-2, and then FaZe, they have a 0.7 average as a team and a 0-4 record right now against FaZe. So not the ideal situation for OpTic, of course, at the present time. And a lot of discussion right now around Formal, right? Because Method is saying a few days ago, as we will look at, the fact that Formal has incredible communication in terms of going into the listenings and such. Seems like he's always commanding the troops and super calm player, and that may be even a beneficial factor on LAN, right? You know that when you go back to a LAN environment, that kind of elite communication can actually really help, especially when there's a crowd there, when there's a lot of noise, right? And you can keep your team calm in that sense. Probably even more important in LAN, certainly than online, and if there's fans back, then even more important than that. So that, of course, is one side of things. The other side of things, though, is this whole, Kenny Formal drama that happened a little bit ago, right, where Kenny was saying on the Los Angeles Thieves pre-show the fact that, look, if he had to say that there was a worse player on OpTic, it would be Formal. He doesn't think he necessarily takes the right route at times, think he plays for kills a little bit too often, and of course, Formal had some decent results then since Kenny just said that, and Kenny didn't have the greatest results at the Stage 3 major, so there was certainly a little bit of spice to be said about that. But since Formal, of course, had the tough result this weekend, the 0.46 KD up against Atlanta FaZe, the lowest KD in the season so far for him, in just about beating out his teammate Envoy the last time they played FaZe. So incredible what FaZe can do right now against some of these other top teams. But as Kenny says, as Formal says to Kenny, lol, you can't just take my gimmick like that, because of course, Kenny comes in and likes this tweet, as we did indeed look at. Now, of course, as we were saying a few months ago, Kenny was doing these things. I mean, it was 10th a couple of months ago, talking about accuracy, and a similar thing happened really on the Los Angeles Thieves pre-show relatively recently, and this is the flank a couple of days ago when there's some discussion, I'll play it in these clips right here, of Method saying, look, Formal's communication is absolutely fantastic, but then Parasite coming out and Simp's talking about it as well, along with Zuma. In this series they lost to FaZe, things are very different in terms of how slow Formal's playing, and really the rest of the team staggering their pushes very significantly.
Dashy wasn't playing well on the stretch where they were playing terrible. He switched to the mill stop, and he's been frying. I think like when he is on level, they are very competitive in these series. When he's not playing well, they really struggle.
Well, Formal also wasn't great either. Formal's also playing really good too. And also, I listened to listens, and I think Formal may have the best comms in the game. I'm not kidding. He's a good communicator, and I don't know. I feel like it's just a completely different team. I think, like you said, the two ARs were struggling. Now they're not. Yeah, pretty clear cut.
No, I agree. He has really good comms. That's always been a thing with him. I feel like a lot of people have always said that about his comms. Like he's just an IGL. And he's also very calm in games. Like I feel like he doesn't freak out.
No, he talks so, bro. When I talk that quick, I start stuttering like a mother. Weak behind ring.
You sound like Drazah when you talk quick.
Like they takes them so long to advance up on the map when they get kills for a break. Like a lot of the time, like this is like something that Formal does a lot. He'll just like kind of like bounce up around the map, like L triggering an angle. Then he like doesn't see anybody. He'll like sprint up a little bit, start L triggering. Like sometimes he just needs to start sprinting, like just start sprinting as fast as possible and getting to like these spots and stuff like that because it's just taking them way too long to even like break a setup. Like a lot of the time, like they're just letting like aBeZy get back police and finesse and take his time, and he's just not giving them anything. And I think that's their issue because he's playing off like an ego chow a lot of the time, and it just doesn't make any sense.
They have the potential to be that team where they're just constantly being a nuisance and constantly being aggressive. But I agree with you. I think sometimes they're a little slow in their decision making, or they're not quick enough on the map. It's making use of your kills.
I mean, I feel like with the listeners specifically, I feel like they were just on like a constant, just like push. There wasn't really any like.
And they were separated, Chris. Were they not?
Like, it was just like a bunch of. Like staggered pushes.
Yeah, staggered pushes.
So OpTic Chicago is still in a reasonable position right here. They're 1-1 in terms of series count right now. Of course, they 3-0 Minnesota Rokkr. That's very useful for them in terms of potential tiebreakers, right? Because if you're OpTic, all you realistically have to do is get the job done here against Seattle Surge and Paris Legion, and you'll at least win, one of these big tiebreakers to make sure you can get into top 3. Of course, you want to get better than top 3, right? But at the end of the day, only the first place team gets the bye in the winner's bracket. So at the end of the day, regardless of how it goes, if you're starting in the winner's bracket, OpTic Chicago last time started in the lower brackets. That's, of course, not what they wanted to see. So, of course, this loss to FaZe wasn't ideal for a couple of different reasons, but they still find themselves in a pretty reasonable position here in terms of their group, and, they play a couple of good matches next up for them to bounce back into the form that we saw from them in the Major. And easyMac was talking in the Breaking Point podcast, the fact that, the format really doesn't favour them, right? The idea that they're very much a momentum-based team, and we saw that at the Stage 3 Major where they caught fire in the losers bracket, they won all those matches in a row. They won 10 maps in a row indeed, and that's the OpTic of old in a sense. They go to a LAN environment, they play a load of matches in a row. That's when some of these teams that are very chal heavy, as easyMac was talking about it, right, they play to take a lot of gunfights. When they're warmed up and ready to go on form, that's when they play their best Call of Duty, right? But playing these games where you play one match, you have like a couple of days off, and then you play another one, that doesn't really favour a team like OpTic and some of these other squads that don't necessarily rely too heavily on teamwork to get them through their games. But here's the game that they play on this Saturday. So this week they play up against the Paris Legion. Paris, of course, with this crazy role change we talked about earlier today, potentially with Aqua going to an SMG. Not sure what's going on there. They could be off a loss against the Los Angeles Thieves potentially as well, and Paris already in a tough spot. I'm pretty sure they're 0-2 in their group already, so yeah, they're obviously having a tough time already here, basically relegated to not make it once again to the winners bracket. It does seem right now, but then the week after that, OpTic have their 2 big matches. They play Surge, then they play the Thieves on the Sunday. So still, if OpTic can get through the 2 teams that they should get through in Paris and Surge, and we've seen that against the bottom tier teams in the league, they really have no issue. So OpTic should be absolutely fine here, but the problem is, once they do indeed go to the Major, of course it is going to be back on LAN as Givey Skills tweet out right here, man. I cannot wait for when LANs are fully back in business. Nothing beats this type of hype, and of course it's coming back June 17th through the 20th at Arlington, Texas, wherever exactly it is, technically hosted by Dallas or whatever, for the Stage 4 Major. But when that does indeed return, that is obviously going to be massive, right? Because you want to have a great seeding. The problem is for OpTic, right, that they're going to have to play some great teams there in the winners bracket if they do make it, and those are generally the teams that they have had struggles with so far. And also, to get a good seeding for LAN, you still have to be a very good team online, right? Because that's what actually qualifies you for the LAN event in terms of the seeding. So you've got to be good at both right now, and the teams that are good at both are going to be the best teams, I imagine, going forwards as well. To finish off the video, thought I would mention this. Came out relatively recently here from Adam Fish. We did talk about this whole idea, the fact that, of course, OpTic are technically partnered with NRG. I mean, you do remember, of course, when Hector Rodriguez sold OpTic, OpTic, and then he went to go to NRG, joined them as a co-CEO alongside Andy Miller, and then of course has started Chicago Huntsman under the NRG branding. Now Chicago Huntsman is nowhere to be seen in terms of, it's just a relic I suppose, and some branding and some merchandise that is still maybe available. I'm not really sure. It's kind of a, well, retired legacy type stuff at this point, but still pretty cool to see in terms of a piece of history for OpTic memorabilia, I suppose. But again, a lot of discussion lately about what might be happening with the OpTic Gaming branding and whether it's possible that they could go into some other esports as well, because OpTic Chicago is, I suppose, still technically a part of NRG, but well, at least it was until we saw the news relatively recently that Hex might be trying to buy that completely out of NRG, and that may no longer be a part of it, and therefore we had some discussion from Adam Fitch about the possibility of a merger even with different organizations such as United to bring them into other esports. Now I just thought I'd mention this, a few of you guys pointed this out to me a while ago, but if you go to NRG's website right here and look under their partners, you'll find the San Francisco Shock, another esports team they have under the NRG heading that they did used to have alongside the Chicago Huntsmen, but Chicago Huntsmen nowhere to be seen on this website, or OpTic Chicago as it is now, nowhere to be seen on this website. So it seems that some sort of divestment has taken place there, but nothing come out public as about this as of yet. But I thought it was a good time to mention it, given that OpTic were in the news once again. But tweet your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, I'd greatly appreciate a like on the video. It really helps out the YouTube box to know you enjoyed this content. Other people like you may enjoy this content as well, and I've grown the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always. Take care, and I will see you next time.